So I can get your attention for a moment. So my name is Glen. I'm the political coordinator at Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO, and I'm a proud member of Teamsters 912. Reverend Gaskins is on his way, so he's about to be here. We will get started, and we'll have him catch up with us when he gets here, though, because I don't want to keep you here forever. Now, this evening we're going to hear from candidates running for the Seaside City Council. All right, up through here. These four folks are running for the Seaside City Council. For the Seaside Mayor. And then these three folks are running for the Monterey seat. So I want to make sure you know who's running for which seats. So for instance, folks at that end of the table are not running at this end of the table. Our intent tonight is to make sure that we hear from folks. You've seen the prepared questions. If there's time, we will take questions from the floor. But at a proper time, so we can still have time for discussion, we are going to gently kick the candidates out of the room. Or not so gently if they won't leave. And then we get a chance to talk as labor folks and potentially come up with recommendations for endorsement that will then be taken up at next Wednesday's monthly Delegates Assembly. So, with no further ado, I'm going to start with Jason. Then we're going to keep working our way down, and by the time we get back down here, hopefully the reverend's here. That works for you. So you have 2 minutes for an opening statement. And also I want to point out my colleague, Alejandro Chavez. He's tonight's timekeeper. Rayburn. What did I say? Chavez. Oh my God, Alejandro Rayburn. See, don't work with me, I'll forget your name. But, he's going to be the one telling you when you have X amount of time left, 1 minute or 30 seconds. We have to try to cut it off if we've got the time. And as you know, in campaigning, pith is reward. You get to the point, don't have to talk too long. We like that. So yours, Casey.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you for having us here tonight. It's, I think every forum is very important that the candidates get to reach out. My name is Jason Campbell. Obviously, I'm an incumbent for with the Seaside City Council, and I'm running for re-election after my first term. I want to briefly talk about economics of the value of unions. From the 80s, from maybe till the mid-2010s, most developed countries have had a stable middle class. And as a matter of fact, France has had a middle class that went from 60% of the population to 68% of the population for policy reasons. But the US, unfortunately, has gone from 60% of the population being middle class to 50% of the population. And I believe that is, or I know, one of the main causes of that is the demise, unfortunate demise of the unions. So we can talk about economics and the value of unions, but you all know that already. So what I really want to talk about is the relationship between unions and elected officials. The Democrats have made a lot of mistakes in the past. They've backed the wrong candidates. I'm not talking about anybody here. And not fought for the correct judges, and one of their biggest errors is not fighting for unions. They get elected without unions, but they haven't been fighting for unions, and the right-to-work legislation and legislation that's been doing damage to unions actually does damage to the political system. There's a study out now that says the presidential election, probably 3.5% fewer voters go out to vote for Democrats because of the demise of unions. Unions have that much power, they organize. So while this sounds self-serving, there's a symbiotic relationship here. If the union supports us, candidates, the candidates need to support the unions to provide, this legislative support and also the economic support and the support of families. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having us tonight. My name is Kayla Jones. I serve on the Seaside City Council, and now I'm running for mayor. I'm running for mayor because our city is in sore need of a change in leadership. I'm running from a safe seat, so if I'm not elected, I will remain on the council, but the importance of my candidacy is this is an opportunity to turn to a new style of leadership. We can't afford to revive old ways of doing business. Seaside is coming into its own, and it's important that we continue the momentum we've built up during my term as a council member. After being elected in just a couple months, the change on the council was palpable. City processes move more quickly now due to procedural elements I changed on the dais, and we made real progress in our commitment to supporting smart development, like the development happening on our 3 areas of Fort Ord. Since being on the City Council, I have stayed in close contact with Unite Their Local 483 on a variety of issues, including workers' rights in Seaside, project labor agreements, higher minimum wage, and pushing for Seaside to become a sanctuary city. I am also an outspoken supporter of the Monterey Peninsula College Teachers Association and have spoken up for them on social media and at board meetings. I've walked picket lines for MBCTA, AT&T workers, and have attended many rallies in support of unions. I recognize that unions are the backbone of the middle class, and in a community where we have widening wealth and equality, it's important that we have mayors that are consistent on their stances and values, supportive of project labor agreements, supportive of smart development, and supportive of apprenticeship programs that can help create a career pathway for my residents. When unions are strong and membership is high, the economy is better for all of us. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm endorsed by the Monterey County Democratic Party, Assemblymember Mark Stone, and I'm humbly asking for your support and endorsement of my candidacy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ian?
Good evening. My name is Ian Oglesby, and I'm running for mayor of the city of Seaside. I'm a former council member with 8 years on the council and 2 years as mayor pro tem. Either way, no matter who you pick tonight to endorse, whoever's going to win this election, change is coming. The current mayor is not running again, so it's an open seat. I'm running to fill that seat because I think I'm the most qualified and have the most experience to get things done. The 3 things that were mentioned that are happening on former Fort Ord, I voted for those things. I put those things in motion. It just didn't happen 18 months ago. I've been with the union. I'm a strong union member. I've been a union member for the last 23 years. I've worked as the treasurer secretary of my local union for the last 10 years. I believe in project labor agreements, livable wage, prevailing wage, community project labor agreements, and community benefit agreements. I put those things in place before, so those are not new to me. I think as a union, what you will need is someone that's going to fight for you in a consistent manner, toe-to-toe with the developers. Not taking away from anyone else, but I've been in those fights before, and I won those fights. We won those fights, and we will continue to win those fights. So I'm asking for your endorsement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lisa Ann?
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, as the AFL-CIO, and its members that are here tonight for hosting this informative event. I also want to apologize for my raspy voice. My doctors assure me it's the sensitivity to the fires, and unfortunately are going on in the devastating fires of the West Coast. I'm Lisa Ann Sawhney, and my vision for Seaside includes safety, stewardship, and success for a wonderful, diverse university and coastal city. My priorities as mayor, if I'm so humbly elected, would be maintaining, saving, and investing in our current city services and infrastructure, overseeing and embracing the change or future structure of FORA, ensuring fiscal strength and oversight, focusing on economic development, including, but not limited to, affordable housing, transportation needs, careers, and sustainable living wages, encouraging more discussion, diverse viewpoints, nonpartisan cooperation, transparency, collaboration in chambers, as well as more cooperation and collaboration with other agency partners. I'm running to provide a different approach and way to ensure Seaside success, as well as providing greater transparency and business acumen to the many upcoming transactions Seaside will be grappling with in the near future, as well as long-term investment decisions for both Seaside and the Peninsula. I request your vote in person or by mail. It would be my honor to serve, ensuring the safety, stewardship, success of Seaside, as well as the entire Peninsula for today, as well as future decades and generations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Maddox?
Hi, my name is Terrell Maddux. Everyone calls me Maddox usually, so it makes it a little bit easier being without the 2 T's. But I really appreciate everyone that came out, everyone else that's watching probably on social media or whatever. But I'm very, very excited to talk to you guys today. This is something that I've been thinking about for quite some time, and my whole goal on the Monterey Peninsula is to enrich the lives of my neighbors and the people around me. I very much believe in community, not only the community that's brought out by unions, but community on a holistic, full level. And I think that every person, and everyone I talked to today, everyone I've been talking to has been telling me the same thing. It's all about cohesion. And I was, as the universe would have it, I spent 10 years in I've spent 10 years in the United States Army, and what I learned in that time is that collaboration and community is what can drive everything, not only in our own nation, but in other nations that I've been in. But I cannot do any of it without your help. So my name is Terrell Maddux. I'm running for City Council, and I very much would appreciate your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tyler.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tyler Williamson, and I'm running for City Council in Monterey. I'm here today to ask for your support and your endorsement, and if you are a resident of Monterey, also your vote. I am part of National Federation of Federal Employees, Local 1690. I work at the Naval Postgraduate School, and that's our local there. I've been a member ever since I've been employed at NPS as of 8 years ago. And 2 years ago, I became the legislative committee chair for our union. And my first task was getting us involved with the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council. And so we've been successful in doing so and have been involved ever since. And one of my main tasks as far as our involvement was developing a relationship with other locals on the peninsula. Because when we need help with something, I want to make sure that other unions felt like we were there for them as well. And so I've been trying to bridge that gap as much as possible. I will start off by sharing that the most important issue I think that we have on the peninsula is housing. And so in a lot of ways, my campaign is focusing on housing. It affects the working class the most. Over 70% of the people that live in Monterey are renters. Rent averages, it's approaching $2,000 a month, and I talk to people, I've been walking and knocking on doors for the last month, and people tell me that their rents are increasing $300, $400, $500, and these are the people that are in the toughest economic situations. And so we need to make it easier for developers to come in and do their job. And one thing that I understand from union's perspective is that we need to make sure that these people are also getting paid a living wage, and we're selecting people that are locally employed. And so I would end with that I want to be a voice for the people that actually live in Monterey and the people that work here as well. So with that, I will just say again, my name is Tyler Williamson. I'm running for City Council in Monterey, and I'm here to ask for your support and endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. And David.
So many well-spoken candidates. I really appreciate the comments that everybody has made, and I think we all are of one heart when it comes to wanting to work for the community, so your choice is hard. I think the first thing to do is to thank all of you for taking the time to be here. It's been a long day, and you're showing your dedication by participating and taking your part in the democratic process. I attended a city council meeting just before coming here. I'm currently vice mayor of the city of Monterey, and I came over here immediately following the city council meeting, and I ate my dinner in the car. And that may give you some indication of how important I consider unions to be. Unions are as important today as they have ever been. They are the one thing that's protecting the common working man from the corporate greed. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself, because I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity to talk about the issues. I came to Monterey 36 years ago. I started out delivering refrigerators. I worked myself up to a service technician. When it became time to want to build a family, I moved to Monterey, and I started figuring out how I was going to live here. I began working in hotels where I was a proud member of Unite here. While I was working in the hotels, I also was establishing a small business in the trade. I went into kitchen remodeling and refrigeration in the city of Pacific Grove. I never achieved my goal of having a family, but I was a dedicated single parent. I still am a dedicated single parent today. And my life has evolved around caring for the people that are around me in my community and in my life. First as a single parent, then as an educator where I taught migrant workers and students from the lower income areas to be successful in college. Then as a caregiver for my mother, and now as a city council member. I have the same dedication for my city family as I do for my immediate family.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here on this evening. I am Regina Mason, and I am a lifelong resident of the city of Seaside, California, born on the former floor ward in the old Army hospital torn down. I have been a public servant to my community for over 30 years now, and I also am a retired social worker. I worked as a first responder in the field of child welfare in the early part of my career. I also was on the union as the shop steward for the social workers, so I've been in your shoes. One of the issues for me in terms of why I'm running is that I feel like I am now the community social worker, where people are living in tumultuous times, living in crisis situations, and they come to people in the community that they know will be standing by their side. And that has been myself and others that I've worked with. I believe that being on the city council in terms of unions, nothing will happen under my watch around labor unless I hear from the unions. We know that Fort Ord is going to be being developed, and prevailing wages must happen. Living wages have to happen for the workers, health benefits, and job safety. Bill Lucy was on at a national convention. He's one of the, I don't know if people know who William Lucy was. He was one and is one of the most influential people in the labor movement. And I had the opportunity to meet him at an NAACP national convention. And one of the things that he talked about is ensuring that unions, we fight to keep unions intact. With our current administration, that is something that people want to get rid of. And so I will go more into detail later, but thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And John?
Good evening, I'm John Wizard. My public service career started as a basketball referee for the city of PG when I was 16 years old, and having worked for the police department, the fire department, the 911 center, I've been involved with IFFF or AFL-CIO, ORAC, operating engineers, SEIU, and I've always been a full paying fee member. I didn't believe in just paying the lower dues, because if you want to support the union, you need to fully support the union in all aspects of that. I'm currently a member of the Monterey County Planning Commission, so I'm able to practice the commitment to my community and not just talking about what I want to do for the community. And so through that role in the Seaside Environmental Committee, we're talking about how to empower our community here in Seaside. I understand we're physically in Marina now, but in Seaside, and make the city a better place for all people in Seaside and not just a handful of people. Specifically, Unite HRE showed up to a city council meeting and talked about how the city's 20-year-old labor peace agreement was no good, and asked the city council to change it. There was no action. It stood the way it is, stood the way it was, and is that way still today. And those are some of the rare opportunities we have to renegotiate some of these antiquated contracts that do not meet today's legal cleverness and how various lawyers have gotten around certain things. So card check neutrality, project labor, living wage, labor peace. You guys have my support and my consideration of all those things, because what's good for you is good for the whole city, and what's good for the whole city is the whole reason we're supposed to be there in the first place. So I ask for your support and your endorsement because frankly, I think that I'm your guy. Can I help you out and make sure that your success translates into success for everybody in the community?
Thank you. And Reverend Gaskins?
Thank you. I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here today. I was a little late because I went to the other place. And I found out that you were not there anymore, so here I am. What do I bring to you? I'm running for one of those seats in City Council. I understand there's only two. I just need one. What do I bring? One is I'm old. I bring age. Along with age, I bring to you experience. I also can work with people of all backgrounds, whatever. I can work with them. I look at it as a different perspective. I'm looking for things in a new way. I'm not here to talk about what is, we talk about what can be, what can I bring to the council to help. I'm committed to the job, take the job, do the job. I'm very truthful. I don't believe in beating around the bush. I believe in doing what is necessary. Why am I here with you now? Again, is to get your vote. Hear what's important to you, and to ask for that vote in November. To ask for your help in my campaign. Who am I? I am a pastor. Been a pastor for 35, 40 years. I've been living here on the peninsula since 1962. I'm a retired Army, I might say, because I've been a private. I've been in E5, I've been in E6, I've been in E7, retired as Chief Warrant Officer of Military and Logistics. What are the issues? The issues are affordable housing, water, homelessness, and affordable dealing with food. And so I'll just...
It's time.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's time.
Time?
Right.
Okay, my time is up. See you later. My secretary will give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. So we're going to move on, excuse me, to question 2. Now, if you don't have the questions, we do have them here if you'd like to see. Now, we're going to start with Maddox, if that's okay, and we'll go down the table and then come back up this way again. So the question is, each city on the Monterey Peninsula has unique challenges and strengths. How would you help foster more regional collaboration? And unfortunately, it's a 1-minute answer. Either way.
I think collaboration is key. I was in the Army for 10 years, and one of those years we were ambushed while we were in Baghdad, and we all had the same dream that day, get home safe. So we all got brave, and then most of us made it home. Some things are impossible until they're not. Collaboration can happen if everybody focuses on it. So we just have to focus. Done.
Thank you.
1 minute is tight.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just didn't know.
And Tyler?
Done.
So speaking of collaboration, I think the Central Labor Council is a perfect example of collaboration and finding a way for us to work with each other. I also am one of the co-founders for Monterey Peninsula Pride, which one of our goals there is to develop collaboration on the peninsula for the LGBT community. And so, one thing that we've pursued there is working with Santa Cruz Pride, Pajaro Valley Pride, and Salinas Valley Pride on finding a way for us to work together collaboratively. And then just speaking to the housing issue again, being the most important issue on the peninsula, I'm working with candidates that are running in each city on the peninsula to develop a regional housing strategy around housing, which I think is critical for an issue that is a regional issue. So coalitions are important, are key.
Thank you. And Tim?
So now I pick up the pace because there's so much to say in so little time. So I just want to say right now, I'm not running against anyone. I'm essentially running for you. I'm running for my community. I'm not running against any other candidates. I'm here for you. My MO is to bring people together, to work together, and that's what I've always done. Starting before I was actually elected to the city council, I organized, directed, and conceived a symposium on homelessness that actually resulted in tangible gains for our community. I have been convening a essentially county-wide group on the issue of homelessness and taking those insights into the Leave Me Home Coalition, which is the oversight board for the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. Focusing on my community and the region, actually county-wide, I've brought together 14 care-providing agencies and memberships of 5 religious congregations to conduct a symposium on community responses to elder care. It's all about bringing people together, identifying need, and then building community solutions.
Thank you very much. And Regina?
Okay, I actually, I'm president of Monterey County Branch in ACP. I just took a leave of absence to run for my candidacy, but I have launched the Poor People's Campaign for Monterey County for Self-Determination and Economic Justice. And in that group, there are 38 different representation of organizations, and that group has various opinions and ideals about how to get the Poor People's Campaign subcommittees up and running. And so as part of that, I am a consensus builder and am doing a lot of work in terms of bringing people together regionally, and these are from regional, the whole region. And so collaborating with those groups gives me an opportunity to do some similar things on the city council. Thank you.
So I'm also working with Regina on the Poor People's Campaign, and I represent the Monterey County Planning Commission in that group. And one of the things that I'm doing for regionality beyond the Poor People's Campaign is working with Public Water Now to make a finite scarce resource like our own water supply a public entity, a public resource. I also worked with Measure I to empower the school and give them more money so that they could improve their facilities and attract new teachers and potentially even build housing, because that goes to the affordable housing need in our community to improve facilities. I'm also working with MBEP, Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, on the 2 hotel projects in San City, the South Tioga and the Eco Resort, to make sure that they meet their affordable housing requirements in their own general plan, because they've tried to get around that. So we had a net benefit of $20 million to the community just in San City. And also I'm a member of the Monterey Peninsula Housing Coalition with Tyler.
Thank you. And Reverend Gaskins?
Yeah, you know, when I first retired from the military in 1976, I retired to save the world. I thought there was nothing that I could not do. Moved back to Seaside on 520 Sonoma Street, and I believe it was either the first or the second homeless program that I organized in the city of Seaside, and I helped to write the ordinance for that. The program is still in existence today. Also, I have worked with troubled youth. I worked in the probation department for years over there. And then I've got a program called Save the World. And Save the World was that one of the most difficult times, I don't want to talk too long now, Sunday is the most segregated time. So we put a program together where we would go around to different churches, regardless of what their denomination would be, and to help them. We had in that organization about maybe 1,000 people. Then I organized what they call the Peninsula Outreach. We were feeding 100 meals per day. We did that for about 15, 20, my time.
I'm sorry.
I got
It
to
goes
watch.
quick.
I got to
It's
watch.
not as long as the sermon.
I got to watch this time.
I give you a 30-second. Yeah.
Oh, you're the time.
He's the time.
I thought you were holding me
I
up.
apologize.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, Armando was the guy you look at once in a while.
I forgive you.
You got it. 30 seconds.
Yeah. 1 minute. We have 1 minute to talk about many things, and just listing all the possible ways to collaborate would take a minute. Water would take 2 hours. So, you know, obviously we got to work on water housing. Fora was an example of something that should have been a regional collaboration, but it by many measures was a failure. So basically, I've been an activist. I try and take the pulse of the community. I have monthly constituent meetings, and everybody's welcome to come. I really try and get input and collaborate with the community itself. An example of trying to collaborate regionally, a shout out to my colleague to my left here, Kayla Jones, as she initiated looking into raising minimum wage in the area more quickly than the state was doing, because affordability as what we make makes things more affordable. Obviously if we make more money. Unfortunately, the reaction from other government representatives was not what we had hoped. So you gotta support and elect the right people. Thank you.
So since my time on the council, I've had to collaborate with my fellow council members, being sort of the odd one out on the dais, on contentious issues such as Airbnb. And after months of discussion and going back and forth, we were able to reach a unanimous decision that we could all feel comfortable with that also ends up supporting our affordable housing fund. I collaborate with the public by hosting public meetings. I started the environmental committee and the committee on the status of homelessness, which brings new faces to City Hall. I collaborate with Public Water now. I was one of the first and early signers. So collaborative that I'm now being hit with a slap lawsuit by CalAm. I collaborate with CSUMB. We started Welcome Back Student Efforts, something we've never done before. That was because of me. And I've collaborated with Unite Here on project labor agreements. And just real quick, going to something Mr. Wizard said, what I expressed to Unite Here, what was expressed to me and the council by the city manager, is that if we had paused at that process and started over with a new contract, we would have had to go back years in progress. So moving forward, we're still in contact with Unite Here. It's been a positive experience, and that is my collaboration experience.
Thank you. And you?
I bring years of collaboration and coalition building experience. Again, I sat on the council for 8 years. 3 years before that, I was a planning commissioner. I'm a current planning commissioner. 4 years before that, I sat on the county school board. When I was on the city council, I sat on the waste management or landfill. We collaborated together to bring green energy to the landfill, moving out waste management, saving our city over $3 million over a 10-year contract. Founding chair of the youth Blue Ribbon Medal for Youth Prevention of Violence, bringing another $3 million matching grant to the city. I'm open to collaboration. Anybody knows me, you know I'm ready to work with anyone.
Great responses, and I can appreciate the difficult decision you all have to make tonight. A couple people mentioned, I think it's very clear that we really care about this community and the peninsula as a whole, and seeing that our cities can work together with some of the more regional issues, from transportation to affordable housing to, of course, water and fora. One thing I didn't hear was to leverage our connections and our nonprofits within our community as well as our church community. And I really see that as an opportunity for strength as well, to build collaboration and to really address some of these greater issues that we have within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is going to be even harder because we have, actually we gave you 2 minutes on this, I think it's that. So question number 3 is, what are the 3 most important issues facing your city? And what will you do to address them? And let's start with Regina.
Okay, so economic recovery from the closure of Fort Worth, housing, and water. But there are many others as well. If you are a social worker, you'll know that these are not the most germane issues facing poor people in our community. However, having said that, what I would do to address the economic recovery effort is what are going to be the revenue generating ways that we can recover. And there is a hotel that's going up on the former Fort Worth, and that would generate transient occupancy tax dollars. So I would definitely look at that. And then I would look at the current general plan and see what needs to be changed, if anything, on the general plan. And I would bring it to the people, make sure that there is transparency, that citizens have an opportunity to weigh in. When Fort Worth first closed, I went before the city council in 1995, and I said to them, we are sitting on a gold mine. And here we are 20 years later, and nothing's really changed all that much in terms of our economic recovery. And so I do believe that economics would be my main issue that I would put forward in terms of new revenue generating issues. And then housing would be another area, because we have so many people that are living homeless in our communities, and we also have people that are coming to our agency. I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit called the Village Project, and we serve everybody, and it's like a 911 center where people are coming and they don't have housing, and it breaks your heart to see children having to sleep in their cars. So that would be another area. And then, of course, we know water has been an issue for over 50 years. So,
Thank you very much. And John?
So the 3 biggest issues at Seaside are affordable housing, water, and economic development. specifically about affordable housing, I've been working with MBEP to institute portions of their white paper with their policy recommendations. Just as an example, Campus Town, which is Giggling and Light Fighter and General Gym, is about 85 acres, it'll be 1,455 homes. There's 70% market rate because 20% is affordable by city ordinance and 10% is workforce. 70% of the homes that will go out there will be worth $750 million. The better part of $1 billion of new property tax assessment that will go to the city of Seaside. And if we screw that up, or if we let Forest screw that up, we are going to be backwards, not moving forward. So affordable housing is 20% of 1,455 homes is 290 houses, or single family, or townhomes, or housing units that we will create for people in our community so that we don't plug up the highways even further with cars commuting from Salinas, from Gilroy, from wherever, King City, to come work at $12 an hour jobs on Cannery Road. Water, of course, is tied to affordable housing. Marina Coast Water District serves the former Fort Ord, Calam, and Seaside proper. The city has 31 acre-feet of water available from Calam's, or the Water Management District's allocation to us from the cease and desist order. We've sat on 43 acre-feet since the cease and desist order and have used 12 in 20 years. Now, we have 30 acre-feet, we've got dirt lots all around Seaside. Why are we not building? Why are we not employing union folks to build stuff for the empty lots all over town, which will help our current citizens and residents, because not only should the city be serving citizens, but even people who are not citizens need services from our city. And so we need to do more with what we've got. We've already got it, we just have to use it. Economic development, our city looks like it's 1954. We need to do something about that. We need to change Seaside to be modern and updated, and that means 2- and 3-story buildings on our downtown sector like Broadway.
Thank you.
You promised me 1 minutes.
You're going to have to take it up with him, I'm sorry.
Affordable housing lifestyle, that. I think the first thing is we got to consider what is affordable. Because I know people who have 3 jobs and can't live here. So what is affordable? And that causes people who born here, been here all their life, is forced out because the affordable housing is built. Nobody can basically. So we need to take a study, a real good look at what we need to do. And we need you in that because we don't need to keep going out of town and bringing in people to do things for us when the union is here and you can do the same yourself. The homelessness, sad thing. Again, people come to us every day because we have organized another program which is called Stepping Stone that deal with the homeless, deal with the people that's sleeping in cars, which I don't like at all. I don't think that is the basic solution. And I've got 1 minute, but the first thing I do, I will come and sit down and talk to you. Because we can't answer all of the questions that you like to answer here. But we need you so that we can deal with that. And the last one is water. Well, just don't drink too much. You know I gotta
And Jason.
And shower, right? Appreciate that. But anyway, I do have to say I'm really pleased with what I've heard tonight. I think everybody's on very similar pages, and one thing that hasn't been mentioned, and I'm glad it wasn't, was public safety. We all value public safety. We have a great fire department. We have a good police department. But Seaside had a history of crime, and Seaside is actually pretty low on the crime rate right now. So we get to rule that out. I just want to say that right now. We have a great citizenry in Seaside. Water, obviously, is important. With our water bills going through the roof, how do we afford housing if we're paying hundreds of dollars on a water bill? And all other things. And it's also a social justice issue that Seaside might be paying a bunch of water to help supply the rest of the peninsula with water when Seaside is sitting on top of a water basin that is actually pretty inexpensive water, which has plenty of water for Seaside and enough to share. Affordable housing is a real issue, and anytime I want to promote it, but anytime the government promotes it and helps subsidize it, whether it's through tax increments, interceptions, or any kind of deal like that, that's when union and prevailing wage labor needs to be involved, because the government is helping subsidize those things. If we increase our housing stock, just naturally supply and demand, it will help reduce housing costs, but affordable housing is very important. Revenue is probably the most important for Seaside. We're at the bottom on the peninsula. We need to increase our revenues, which of course is economic development. A major linkage there is quality of life issues. If we have a good environment, healthy environment, good schools and all that, businesses will come here, naturally come here, because their workers will want to raise their families here. And that is what's important. Good jobs, high-paying jobs, a good quality of life in Seaside.
Well, if I say economic development, I'll end up talking about water and forest, so I'm going to do that separately. So first, on the topic of water, CalAm is causing a serious problem for Seaside's municipal water, and they're overdrafting the Seaside Basin, which can lead to seawater intrusion, and that's a real concern for our long-range economic development plans. CalAm is also proposing the most expensive solution to our water problem with the desal plant. There are less expensive alternatives that are projected to protect us for the next 10 to 20 years, such as pure water Monterey. But CalAm doesn't want to look at that because they like expensive projects, because they like to make a profit. And then who takes that on? The ratepayers, working families, low-income people, and seniors. Next, FORA. I do not like FORA because I don't like that Seaside has to go ask representatives from Monterey and Marina and Pacific Grove permission before we do a development project. I believe that Seaside residents should have the right to self-determine what their future looks like, and they have the right to that autonomy, and they're being denied that right now. The obligations that we will have regarding FORA, environmental concerns, blight removal, mitigations, things like that, we will have withstanding FORA, whether that goes away or it doesn't. We will still have to meet those obligations, but we won't be giving 50% of our land shares away anymore to pay very, very highly paid FORA staff. And if we're not giving away 50% of our land shares, imagine how much economic investment can come back into the community. And finally, on affordable housing, I sit on the California League of Cities Affordable Housing and Economic Development Policy Committee, so I'm having to talk to council members and mayors and legislators from all over the state about issues that affect all of our communities. We need to be open to having a roundtable discussion about rent control involving landowners, homeowners, landlords, renters, things like that. I am a renter. I know what affordable housing means right now. Pretty much nothing in Seaside is affordable, and so I feel like I bring that perspective to the office of the mayor. We also need to make sure that our wages are matching the rising cost of rent, which is why I push for a 15-hour minimum wage. Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement with the top 3 or 4 things that's facing each community, and mine is water, housing, and jobs. So I'll start with water. The cost of water is just taking too much out of disposable income out of our residents' pocket. And that money can be used to buy things within our community, thereby creating economic development, and that goes around and around. The only way we're going to get that is somehow we get to the feasibility check to see if it's possible to own our own water. I believe that the residents should own their own water, but we're looking to see if that's feasible. I believe it is, but we'll leave that up to the voters. Right now, housing is very expensive. Why is housing so expensive? Because it's expensive to build, and we're not building any homes. So the first thing the developer does, they're going to try to maximize their money, so they build high-income homes, and we only require them to do 20% affordable housing. And then what is affordable? Well, that's the formula. The formula ended up being that affordable is $375 to $420. That's not affordable. As mayor, within my 100-day plan, I will bring to the council an ordinance that the city gets back into the building of housing, affordable housing, housing for people making less than $75,000 a year. What we want rents to be, or mortgages to be $900, $1,000, $1,500. That can be done. We work public-private partnerships with nonprofit low-income housing developers, maximizing the city's bonding capacity. We have $30 to $40 million. We can build a whole bunch of housing units. And the last thing is those creation of homes will create jobs, and the cycle continues. That's the object, is getting stuff done. We all can have programs, but if you don't get in there and make sure it happens, it doesn't get done.
Thank you. And Lisa?
I agree. I think we really are on the same page, and it's great to see that the community concern is so similar. I have fora, water, and concerns about careers, not jobs. The fora land transfer is certainly very concerning to me. I just read an article yesterday about the fact that the fora staff is actually trying to come up with a plan to get rid of, to lose their job. I have a human resource and an organizational change management background. I've never heard of anything like that in all my years of professional, working with businesses and nonprofits. Water, as discussed, I think we need both shorter term and longer term solutions. I do think they will end up being collaborative. I appreciate the Public Water Now initiatives and definitely think that they can push things, and I'm concerned with the most recent court decision with the DSAL allowing CalAm to move forward. I understand that they will continue to be in court for quite a while, and we're going to have to work through that. But we're also going to have to work with CalAm in some way to either get our infrastructure back or to figure out something. So again, that word collaboration is really important. I spoke about careers, careers and jobs, but really needing some stable careers in our community, especially in Seaside. Again, my human resource background, I just see that we're missing a real stable economic base for our community. And I definitely support COLA adjustments and living wage efforts. And I got my 30-second there. And I would just really encourage, greater economic growth and development. And I think that's going to be critical with both water and fora being addressed. So Seaside can move forward and have success in the future, both today, tomorrow, and in decades to come. Thank you.
I feel like if you just got everybody on this panel together, I feel like everything would happen. It just feels like. So apparently we're all going to take care of water. So that's not even a thing anymore. But one of the big things that I think I can speak to that no one else has talked about just yet is a clarity and understanding of local government. We have such, on the whole Monterey Peninsula, we have such an intellectual community, and such a, not only just based on degrees and things of that nature, but just a clever community that's derived from people that, white collar and blue collar, and everyone that just works together for a common goal, however you put it together, but especially intellectually. And I think that what really needs to happen, that we haven't seen happen, is an updated form of community input. There's a lot of things that happen that some of the people that are in our community could maybe find some alternative solutions for, but they just don't know the proper ways to get that input put into their city. So I think a clarity in government and a better method of getting the word back and forth between the community and those that steward it is the way that our community will thrive all the way across the board. Before the third.
And so,
So I'm looking at water, housing, and I'd say transportation is a subset of housing to keep it to my three, and then transparency. So housing is the issue that's closest to my heart because I've been homeless before myself, and my partner and I were able to buy a home together last year in Monterey. So having been on both sides of that experience, I just feel that it's important for everybody that works and live in Monterey to have those same opportunities, but what that looks like is the question. So again, the ratio that I described earlier, 70% of the people in Monterey are renters. Now we have the situation where over half the people that work in Monterey can't afford to live in Monterey. And so never mind the transportation, the impacts on all the cars on the road, right, that we're creating. But just imagine if we were able to develop more housing on the peninsula, we would be able to get some of those cars off the road, and people would be pushed to, will have more opportunities to ride their bike or walk to work. So we get even more cars off the road in that aspect. Something else in regards to housing, because of my leadership on housing, Supervisor Mary Adams has appointed me to the Housing Advisory Committee for the county, and I'm working to reactivate that group in order to push forward housing policy, again, regionally, trying to find a way for us to work together to solve this regional issue. But we can't talk too much about housing development on the peninsula unless we talk about the water issue. And so I think the most important thing, I think the first step in that process is trying to figure out this battle between going public or staying private. And I think what better way for us to move forward than supporting this initiative that's going to be on the ballot in November, so that way we have the data and the facts to look at to see which way would be better for us to move forward. And then speaking to the transparency piece, I sit on the Architectural Review Committee for the City of Monterey, and I think one thing the city could do a better job of is being more intentional about the people that we place on our city commissions to make sure that it reflects our community. So I give our Planning Commission as an example. The Planning Commission is all men. So I think we could do a better job there. And I'll just wrap that up there.
All right, thank you. And Tim?
Thank you. So 2 minutes seems as though we can almost go at a leisurely pace. So I'm going to take a moment to revisit some of the regional collaboration that I've worked for, promoted, and participated in. And I'll just read off a few names. Public Water Now, original signator. Community Power for Monterey Bay. Pure Water Monterey. One Star Fish Safe Parking Program, which I was one of the progenitors of. Gathering Place for Women, which now has their own building with a medical clinic in it. So just a few examples. My observations are that, again, 1 in 2 people on the Monterey Peninsula are challenged with the cost of housing. 1 in 3 are living at or below the poverty level when adjusted for the cost of living. In the city of Monterey, there are 2 jobs for every household. We have 18,000 households, but only 1 in 5 of those jobs is met by a city worker, somebody who lives in the city. So we're importing 80% of our workforce. So for me, the big 3 are housing, livable wage-paying jobs, and the budget. So I've been very active on the housing issue, even to the point of founding a nonprofit called the Neighborhood Housing Fund for Monterey. And we are working on removing barriers to housing for people that are challenged with the upfront costs by developing a rental assistance program through that fund. Livable wage-paying jobs, I've been working to redirect city funds back into our local economy and make sure that the banks with which our city has deposits redirects those monies back towards our communities, homeowners, and small businesses. The budget, just real fast, that's very important because we're facing budget challenges in the city of Monterey, and we have to figure out humane ways to deal with that don't displace workers, that protect our workers, that augment our revenue for the city without firing a lot of employees or creating hardship for the people that work for us. So those are my big 3. Housing, livable wage-paying jobs, and our budget, dealing with it in a humane way.
Thank you. So we're going to move to closing statements, and the candidates are going to be answering the question, why should the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council endorse you? And they have 1 minute, and if we can start with Kayla, we'll go down and come back as well.
Okay. I believe in housing affordability, higher minimum wage, increasing access to government, environmental stewardship, and union participation. And since being on the council, I've advocated for every one of those beliefs. I will speak louder for Bob Kobold. I established the Environmental Committee and the Committee on the Status of Homelessness. I worked to make it easier for women and parents and working people to participate in government by starting city-sponsored childcare. I started a first-time homebuyer program on March 30th so that my residents can live in homes on our new development sites before Silicon Valley folks come and try and take them. And the first phase is going to be rolling out in the next 6 weeks. I pushed for a $15 an hour minimum wage. I successfully pushed for Seaside to be a sanctuary city and have consistently shown up for unions by walking picket lines, speaking at board meetings, on social media, and more. Seaside is a diverse city, and it's time that the office of the mayor reflect that. Women, workers, renters, and residents under the age of 45 should be able to imagine themselves running for mayor. And I believe that I am representative of those age groups, of all of those groups, and I believe that I'm a vehicle for that change. So, thank you.
I believe, first of all, I believe a slot for mayor should go to the most qualified, not anyone in a particular group. And so that's why I believe you guys should endorse me. I'm a strong union person. I've been in the union all my adult life, and I will continue to support the things that the union are concerned with, which is union wages, livable wages, progressive wages, and prevailing wages. I'm sorry. But the point is, you need someone in the slot for mayor that's going to be able to speak to the whole community and run the city the way it should be run going forward. There's a lot of good things that are coming from the council members, and some of these council members will continue to serve on the council, and they can still fight for what they believe in, and I will support them in that. But the city is wider than some of these groups that we're trying to narrow it down to. We have close to $500 million worth of construction in the pipeline. If you don't have a strong voice to move those things forward, they won't get moved forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a background in human resources and organizational change management, and have advocated my entire professional career for hardworking men, women, students, and families. Certainly many, many within Seaside fit those categories. I have new ideas, out-of-the-box thinking, new ways to lead, and provide greater transparency and forums like the chats that are going on within Seaside. I'm just fresh and new, and really feel that Seaside has been stuck for some time, and I really want to encourage the success of Seaside within the peninsula, both for Seaside and the peninsula. I request your vote in person or by mail. It would be my honor to serve, ensuring the safety, stewardship, and success of Seaside. Thank you.
Wow, what a great day. I'm just blown away. I really appreciate. I just wanted to take the time to say I really appreciate everyone taking the time to come and hear us speak. We really want to be, and I think I speak for everyone here, when we want to be the stewards of this wonderful place that we love so much. So, you know, we're not running against each other. All of us are just very passionate. So I'm honored to sit up here with such great people. One of the biggest things that I want to make sure that I say is I want to sit on the city council because I believe that I can affect change in a major way. Very similar to Tyler, I found myself in a homeless situation as well in Monterey, and I made sure that I made it back so that I could live in this wonderful place that we all enjoy. I think I can make a difference, but I can't do it without your help. So please vote for Terrell Maddux, Monterey City Council. Thank you.
So I'm honored to be a delegate on the Central Labor Council for Nephew Local 1690. And speaking of the Naval Postgraduate School, one of the reasons what motivated me to run is because a lot of my coworkers at NPS can't afford to live in Monterey. So again, we're going back to the housing issue, where a lot of the people that work in Monterey can't afford to live here. And so speaking a little bit more about specific things as far as what we can do to make housing development easier on the peninsula is loosening regulations. John Wizard was speaking earlier about the white paper from MBEP and the recommendations that have been given there, and so we can use those as a tool to loosen regulations to let it be easier for developers to come in and do their job. I'll end with that the whole reason why I'm running is because I want to be a voice for the people that actually live here. So again, my name is Tyler Williamson, and I'm here today to ask for your support and your endorsement. Thank you so much.
I think you should endorse me because I care. I care about people. I care about our community. And you should endorse me for the same reasons my community elected me in the first place. Because I'm part of this community. I'm of this community. I am not empathetic with the plight of the people around me. I'm one of those people. I'm part of this group. I ran for city council because of the hardship that I was witnessing among my neighbors, because of the hollowing out of our community with second homes. Right around in my block, we have 4 or 5 homes that are second homes. When I speak to people in those houses, they don't care. But when I speak to people that are my longtime neighbors, we go in for coffee. We spend time together. We talk about the issues. I care about my community. I'm here to provide service. It was never in my long-term plan to be a city council member and now vice mayor, but I did earn a master's degree in 1 year. I've now been on the city council for 4 years, studying every issue and going deep into it. I've earned 4 master's degrees since being on the city council.
Okay, so I really think that you should endorse me. My campaign slogan is, "You matter to Mason," and you do matter to Mason. And in fact, I have demonstrated results of why you matter to Mason. I have been a public service servant in this community for over 30 years. I'm not just coming into the community, joining things, and getting on board now. I have literally lived a life of service to community. And so I believe that you should vote for me. But the other important thing is the pledge that you gave all of us. I support every single thing that you have on here, and you definitely have an advocate on the city council in terms of your issues. Thank you.
Thank you for having us this evening. I'll try to be brief. I hope I've demonstrated to you that I have a knowledge about the issues that are affecting the city, and so I can start on day one. I don't need another year to figure out what's going on. I'm also endorsed by a labor group, IFF, Local 1218, Seaside Firefighters, as well as a pro-labor group, the Monterey County Democrats. I am currently out, I'm busy in the neighborhood. I've knocked on more than 2,500 doors. I've walked more than 250 miles, and 4,000 voters live in those homes. And I'm trying to preach the values of the Democratic Party and labor about organizing and having a big tent, communicating with everybody and anybody, because we need numbers to be powerful. We need numbers to get our hopes and dreams accomplished. It's not done by any one person or any one group. And so we need to work together, we need to collaborate, and I support you, and I hope that you will choose to endorse and support me. Thank you.
I bring you hope. Regardless of what the situation looks like, there is hope. Why I believe that it's hard to say that you should vote for me and not for these other people, because all of us are here good. But I think the most important thing with all that the city have, one little fine point that I bring is time. I bring you time. I don't have a job. I've got a home paid for, got a car paid for, I've been blessed, I'm 81 years old, and I don't go to the doctor. I'm in good shape. So if you decide to get me, just remember, I have the time to do what's necessary in the city of Seaside. And on behalf of his money.
Double mine. Like I said earlier, it's a reciprocal relationship. If you endorse me, I vow to support the unions in the future. Seaside is sitting in a very powerful spot. Once we have water, we can develop hundreds and hundreds of acres of valuable Monterey County land, and we are in the driver's seat. We should be able to set up ENAs, and anything that's government subsidized, it's in our municipal code, will be prevailing wage or unionized. I will support that fully. I am a landscape contractor. I know labor. I just want you to know. So I identify with the trades. I respect not just the solidarity, but also the training that goes into that. I have been on jobs where non-union electricians have been working, and it's obvious that they have not learned the trade. I mean, the contractor might know the business, but so I support unions, apprenticeships, all the way through our residents. Thank you.
So this is the point, at which we teach the candidates the union plaque or the movement plaque, as a way to show our appreciation for these 10 fine months.